I'm going to start recording now, and we've started the recording, and this is Laura Kelland-May from Thistle Ridge Stables, Thistle Ridge Equestrian Services, and I'm broadcasting today from my Hunter Judge channel on Ustream. Today is June the 16th, I believe. I'm just checking the date here, June the 16th, 2011. And as a result of some of the comments I've been getting on my blog and Facebook account, and also from comments we got last week on the chat here, I am going to make an effort to help people understand what the judge is looking for when they are judging the hunter under saddle. So without any further wait, we're going to get started. Alright, so first of all, if there's anybody out there, I would appreciate it if you would check in and let me know that you can hear me, because sometimes you just don't understand or know that you can hear me or not. If you have a question, you type in a Q and type question in here, and then I can see it. It's highlighted to me, so it's asking me to sign in again. That's my Hunter Judge, and I'm signing in again so that I can type a question. You put a Q and then a colon and type what is your question here. Some people don't like to make new accounts in their for a Ustream account, so that way if you're not wanting to do that, you can go to your Twitter and get into the social stream and do that. So if you have a question there, you just type in your question here. Type in your question here, and that way I can see that as well. So I'm going to be back and forth between the social stream and the chat, so that people will be able to get answers to their questions. Now, if you don't have an account with Ustream, then I'll try to answer the questions that I think that people would want. So part of my mandate as a hunter judge is to share with people what the judge is looking for, so that when I go to a horse show to judge, I'm able to judge the horses rather than having to kind of sift through what is out there. So if people understand what it is that the judge does and what it is that the judge wants to see and what the requirements are, that just makes my job as a horse show judge a whole lot easier and makes it a pleasant day, so that I can actually judge the horses rather than picking the ones that make the less amount of mistakes. So I'm hoping that my mandate is to offer information to people so that they can be prepared when they get in the show ring. So when you go into the show ring, judging the hunters under saddle, that is usually the last class of the division. Usually the hunters come in and they do over fences classes first, because the hunter under saddle, before you can get into the hunter under saddle class, you have to have completed one over fences class. So it's usually the last class of the division. And the three highlights, the three main points that are required for me anyway when I'm judging, are performance, manners, way of going. So the performance is the number one thing as far as I'm concerned. It really doesn't matter how beautiful your horse is, what a great mover it is, what a spectacular, eye-popping, ground-covering horse you have. If it doesn't pick up its correct leads, then you're not going to get placed. So for me, performance is really a very important thing. It's right at the top. So before we go on here, I'm just making sure, I'm just going to check the things here to see if anybody has any questions yet. I don't see any questions, so you can type your questions right there if you have a question. And it looks like we've got some people viewing, which is kind of nice. some guests coming in there. Excellent. And I do believe too that you can go to the Facebook account. I know on my Thistle Ridge Skill Builders, facebook.com, Thistle Ridge Skill Builders, you can go on the left hand side and there is a link underneath my profile picture to bring you right to the Ustream channel. So I'm going to type that here, http://www.facebook.com/Thistle Ridge Skill Builders. And if you go there, on the left hand side you can see the Ustream tab. All right, so I'm going to put my Twitter account here as well, http://www.twitter.com/hunterjudge. So anybody who's coming on can see my link to my Twitter account, and they can go and link up with me immediately right there. So that's it. So we've discussed there's 3 things that I look for when I'm judging a hunter under saddle: performance, manners, way of going. So the performance, the horse must show a proper walk, proper trot, proper canter. If it doesn't get his leads, it's going to be marked down to the bottom. If it doesn't have a nice walk, it gets marked down to the bottom. If it doesn't trot, or trot's not very nice performance wise, if it breaks into any gait, if it's asked for a trot, breaks into a canter, or if it's cantering, breaks into a trot, those are all performance things, and that is a major fault as far as I'm concerned if the performance isn't accurate and good. So number 1 is performance. The next one that I would consider is manners. So the manners of the horse are very important. By manners, I mean doesn't stop or balk at the gate. Horses sometimes they get ring sour, ring shy, and they don't like to get into the ring because they're just bored of it, or they associate the ring with working, so they don't like to go into the ring, or they associate the in-out gate with getting back to the stable. So as the horses come by, they don't want to go around the ring anymore, so they try to get out. If I see a horse do that, I will mark it down in the placing. So that to me is a manners thing. And when you think of the hunter under saddle, it was traditionally for the field hunters, and it's the type of horse that someone would want to ride to field hunt. So it's a nice hacking type of horse, and you would want a horse with good manners to do that. So other manner issues for me are rearing. If a horse rears in the ring, don't even consider it. Gate rat, kicking out at another horse, that's bad behavior. And although we don't like to see crowding in the corners and crowding of other horses, when horses do happen to crowd, it might give a little bit of leeway to somebody. But if a horse kicks out, that's not a nice thing, and I would certainly mark a horse down for that. Bucking, not nice either. That's another manners thing. You might be a little bit more lenient if the horse is playing a little bit, and also if it's a green horse class as opposed to your working hunters where the horses know what they're supposed to be doing. Bucking would be less of an issue probably. But in the young horses, you may forgive a green horse class or novice horse class that was bucking or playing a little bit. But those are manners, so you have to weigh it in consideration with the other ones. And the other thing, the last major point, is the way of going. And to me, this is the heart of the matter, and this is where you want to judge. This is the type of thing that you want to judge. You want to be able to pick the best mover. You want to be able to pick the loveliest horse with the most flowing stride. So once you get the performance horses that haven't performed, they haven't got their leads, and the horses that are shouldn't be in there because they lack the training or they're gait rats or they're bucking or kicking or rearing. Once you get those horses straightened away, then you can go and start judging them on their actual performance, on their actual way of going. So I'm just going to take a quick break here. It's about 15 minutes past to see anybody checked in here, if there's any questions. I'm just typing here. If you have questions for the hunter judge, please visit us to discuss what the judge is looking for. There we go. So I'm also going to put that on my chat, the chat thing here, so that if people do happen to come by, or when people happen to come by, I'm going to put my Facebook account. Thistle Ridge Skill Builders. And then people can go immediately to my page and like me. So I'm going to send this on the Twitter feed now. Hunter under saddle classes. What the judge is looking for. Join us and talk with senior judge to discuss the hunter under saddle class, what the judge is looking, and then it stops. I'm hoping that it will add the link, so I'm not quite sure about that. So the top three things that the judge is looking for: one, performance. Walk, trot, canter, have to get your correct leads. Doesn't matter how beautiful your horse is. If you don't get your leads in your under saddle class, you will be put to the bottom of the class. Number one, you got to have the performance. Two, manners. Horse has to be able to go in the ring, walk, trot, canter without kicking, bucking, biting another horse. Pinning its ears is another one that kind of stands out. Kicking out another horse is not very happy. Gate rat, all those things are considered and will be marked down, and you will be put down to the bottom. And then the final thing is the way of going, which is really where judges want to be so that they can judge the horse. The performance and manners are ways that they can just take off part of the horses. If you got 50 horses in the class and one of them kicks out, you're going to put that down at the bottom of the class. If you have 50 horses in the class and you have some people with wrong leads, they are going to get crossed off the list immediately and you won't get looked at again. Again, if you have a horse that's nappy at the gate, that horse is going to be pulled out and not looked at again. So you have, if you're in a big class, then you must make sure your horse is performing well, because you will not get looked at again if your horse makes a mistake. If you have 10 horses in the class and 5 of them do wrong leads, well, maybe you might get a chance for a ribbon. But that's where I am hoping as a senior judge to educate people so that they know if you get a wrong lead, we don't want to necessarily place you. If it's a nice class and your horse is very nice, and you might forgive someone for a wrong lead if there's not, if there's a few horses in the class and it is the nicest mover and the other ones are bucking and rearing, well, maybe then you'll forgive the one that gets the wrong lead. So yeah, it's a real balancing act. So when you get down to the performance is where judges want to be able to judge the horses so that they can pick the best horse of the whole bunch of the horses. The walk, and I wanted to also add that if you would like to have a copy of the notes, I've got my notes here of what I'm looking for as far as the performance goes. If you want to get a copy of the what the judge is looking for notes here, send me an email to thistleridge@hotmail.com, thistleridge@hotmail.com, and I will be happy to send you a copy of those of the notes that I'm working from. So I'm going to put that. If you want a copy, please email me. And I'm putting my email address there. Please email me at thistleridge@hotmail.com for your copy. That way you can review them whenever you want, or if you have students, then you can share them with your students that what the judge is looking for. For a copy of the notes, please email me, thistleridge@hotmail.com. There we go. That's a great way to do that. All right. If you want to have a copy of my notes about Hunter under saddle, please email me, thistleridge@hotmail.com. Want a copy of my notes about Hunter under saddle? Please email at hotmail.com. I'm not sure if you're supposed to put your email address in the Twitter feed. It might lead to something nasty, mightn't it? Well, we'll find out. So here we go. The walk. The walk is the first thing that the judge sees, and it is very important that the judge sees a nice walk. The walk should be a ground covering, fluid, forward, free, swinging walk. A horse that has high knee action and walking without covering a lot of ground will not be as a favorable position to win as a horse with a ground covering forward walk. And if you keep in mind, this is the first thing that the judge sees when the horses come in, and oftentimes there's the first impression is the only impression that the judge needs to have to place the class. So if you're judging and you see a horse coming in and it kind of just wanders in as if it's going from its hay pile to the water trough, the judge will know, well, I don't really want to ride that horse. It's too lazy. It's not going anywhere. It's not covering any ground. It may be a lovely horse and very kind, quiet horse, but the first impression is it looks like the horse is walking out in the pasture. So remember, when you're in the show ring, you are judged from the time your horse gets into the ring to the time you leave. So you have to get the job done that the judge wants to see. They want to see a ground covering forward walk. I like to see horses tracking up or over tracking when they're walking. They must cover a walk, because I go back to the traditional reason what the hunter under saddle came from. It's the type of horse that a person would ride on a field hunt. They don't do that anymore. Well, some of them don't anyway. Some do, but a lot of them don't. But you know, it has to be going somewhere, I guess is what I'm saying. Horses should be naturally swinging, ground covering, flat-footed, 4-beat walk. Anyone that's jigging, jogging, breaks into a jig jog, they're going to get put to the bottom. Anything that breaks into a halt or will not move forward, they'll get placed down lowers too. You want a nice free-flowing walk and something that looks like it's going to be a joy to ride. And that's just the walk. So we've got other gaits to think about too. Horses which walk with short choppy strides or walk excessively slow will be penalized. Then after the walk comes the trot, of course. Now the hunters under saddle should trot with a 2-beat cadence while showing a balanced stride. Now before we go on any further, I'm just going to check to see if there's any comments coming in here. Let's just go to the social stream. Hunter Judge, want to copy the notes? Please email me. Doesn't look like we have any visitors today, which is unfortunate. All right. So the trot. The hunters under saddle should have a trot, 2-beat trot. If the horse is not sound, well, that's a little bit dodgy anyway. It should be serviceably sound, as they say. The trot should be not rushing. It has to be a rhythmic forward trot. And again, if it is too slow, like a pokey jog that a horse would do out in a pasture somewhere when there's nothing happening and you just want the horse to be marching forward somewhere is really what you want. Pushing from the hindquarters with a strong rhythmic gait. Horses that rush on the forehand, they don't show off very well because often when they're rushing on the forehand, they tend to stab the ground type thing. So we want to make sure that the horse is free flowing from the shoulder in a ground covering trot. Horses hackney-like where they have up down movement with their knees doesn't give a very nice picture, and to me it's not something that I would want to ride and that looks very comfortable to ride, because as I go back to the tradition of the hunter under saddle, it's something that somebody would have wanted to ride in the field hunt and get from point A to point B in a safe, relaxed, comfortable manner. And riding a horse with lots of knee action to me is like a jolty thing. So you have to make sure that your horse is going forward freely in a forward trot covering ground. It should be a long stride and cover more ground without excessive speed. And there's a big question mark. Should the horse be on the bit? Should the horse be on the contact? If your horse goes nicely on a loose contact, then that's where it should be shown at. If your horse does not go nicely on a loose contact but is tense and gets above the bit and doesn't show nicely, then ride it with a little softer, ride it with more contact, get it soft, and then relax your horse so it does show nicely. So I'm not saying put your horse on the bit or let your reins go. It's certainly dependent on your horse, and it may be dependent on the footing, on the day, on the type of day it is, whether it's mucky or whether it's on sand, whether it's on grass. It also depends on your horse. If your horse likes a loose rein and shows nicely in a rounded frame, ground covering trot on a loose frame where he's reaching forward with his nose slightly in front of the vertical, that's wonderful. If you need to have a little bit more of a contact to show your horse off nicely, then you can do that. Do that as well. But you have to remember it has to be a rhythmic trot. Excessive speed will be penalized. You want a ground covering trot without excessive speed. Okay, so before we get into the canter, I'm going to check the chat lines here again, make sure that we've answered some questions. I'm just going to say trot should be ground covering without excessive speed. Okay, so I'm going to put something on the Twitter here, going over what the judge is looking for in Hunter under saddle. So it would be nice if some people came, but oh, maybe there's someone coming here now. There we go. And check the chat line. Hunter judge, type your question in there by typing a Q. And the canter. Now the canter is probably the most important gait. The trot is also important, but as again, I'm going back to the tradition of the hunter under saddle. It was the field hunter, and they did a lot of trotting. They also did a lot of cantering, and the canter's got to be a fluid, rhythmic canter as well. So if your horse has a nice trot or a nice canter, it depends on whether you're going to place or not. The canter is a 3-beat gait and should be free, flowing, and rhythmic, relaxed, and soft. Horses, again, horses that are rushing and going too fast, excessive speed, will be penalized. If your horse is a nice mover and just kind of lopes along with a light contact and a free-flowing canter that looks like something that would be comfortable to ride when you're out cantering, that is the type of horse that the judge is looking for. So the stride and speed is appropriate for horses used on a hunt. So we're going to dial that in a little bit. Traditionally, they were used as considered as a field hunter horse, but now the show ring hunter is a little bit more refined and a little bit more relaxed. A field hunter was something with a little bit more substance. Now the show ring hunter is, yes, we want something that's going to be comfortable and get us from point A to point B, but it's got to have some class. It's got to have a rhythm. It's got to be able to take me there in a quiet, reasonable fashion, not something that's going to gallop away with me. So you have to keep in mind the history of the under saddle horse, which was a field hunter, and marry it with what's going on today, which is a classy, comfortable ride that's going to show off itself and be a lovely mover in all 3 gaits. So horses that are too slow, don't move well, and are or too fast and have bad manners will not place. 4-beat canters, that's another sort of controversy, the 4-beat canter. 4-beat canter, it means the horse is going too slowly and not engaging its hindquarters very nicely. So you want to make sure that the horse has a 3-beat canter. 3-beat canter means the horse is using itself correctly and carrying itself properly with its hindquarters underneath itself and lifting up its front end. 4-beat canter is often a result of slowing the horse down too much and gets on the forehand without covering much ground. So you have to be careful. You want to make sure you get a 3-beat canter. So when the judge asks riders to perform these gaits, it's important that the horse shows a not a submissive nature, but an obedient and mannerly in their way of going. So before we continue on, I'm just going to check the social stream here again, see if there's any questions coming in. Okay, that's good. Excellent. So when you ask the horse to stop or slow down or go to the next gate, the horse should do that in an obedient fashion and without pulling or excessive pulling or having to go around the ring 3 or 4 times. Or if you're going from walk to canter, not taking too long to get to the gate that's being asked. Now I can understand if there's a lot of people in the ring and you're waiting for a spot on the rail to wait and get your canter so that you're not going to crash into somebody or bounce off of somebody's rear end. I can certainly understand that. But if it's a disobedient or an evasion, not to be going forward or coming back, then that's when you'll be penalized for it. So the horse has, I mean, we're asking a lot of the horse. We're asking it to perform lovely, have great manners, and have an excellent way of going. So if you put all those three things together, then you will have a great little show horse. Now, generally, in the global sense here, when I judge a hunter under saddle class, the horse that's the winning horse has to grab my eye. And that usually happens. Usually the winner kind of stands out far and above the rest of them. And I know I've got my winner when I can see it go by and I mark down the number and then I watch again and I say, oh, that's a nice horse. And I watch it go by and I go, oh, I've got that horse already. And then I'll watch some other horses go, make some notes, that wrong lead, nappy at the gate, that one's nice, I like that one. And then this other horse comes, I go, oh, that's a nice horse. Oh, yes, I've watched that horse several times. Yes, I got that one. So when I've marked down a horse 2 or 3 times and I've noticed it 2 or 3 times, then I know, oh, that's going to be my winner because I've seen it, I've noticed it. It's got that wow factor that makes me want to look at it. And that's the kind of horse you really want to have as your winner. And you hope it doesn't blow a lead. My son went away to the medieval times. Look at that's when he brought me back. Isn't that neat? Just thought I'd share that with you. So the winning horse, the horse has to grab my eye. The winning horse appears to flow across the ground effortlessly. And I call it the wow factor. So if I'm going, wow, oh, wow, that's a nice horse. And then I mark some more and go, oh, wow, that's a nice horse. That's my horse that I'm hoping will win the class. And I know it's my winner because I always come back to it and I want to place it. So I'm always looking for it. So those are the three top things that we have to consider is one, performance. That's the number one thing. Doesn't matter how much wow factor it's got. If it doesn't get its leads, doesn't walk, doesn't trot, doesn't canter, it can't win. So it has to have the correct performance, has to have good manners, and that means no bucking, no kicking, no rearing, no nappiness at the gate, and it has to have a good way of going, and that's where we get to be able to judge. The walk, free-flowing walk, trot, 2 beats, ground covering, steady rhythmic trot, excessive speed will be penalized. Canter, same thing, forward, relaxed, rhythmic, lovely way of going. It's that kind of horse that you would like to get on and ride, and those are the things that you have to consider. So that's that part, and